Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. Today I'm going to discuss some ways that you can reduce your weight and what are some of the gear choices that you make that are the biggest weight wasters. You can reduce your weight, you're in control of the choices you make. Some of them, obviously, we can't always afford to buy low weight items or ultralight items or new technology items that come out. They're usually pretty expensive at first. So we might need to make some other choices, and we can do that by paring down some of the things that we already have or choosing not to carry them. One of my suggestions I think is very useful is to take all your gear out of your pack, lay it out in front of you, organize it into like items, and I think you should weigh everything and you should record that weight. That weight should be recorded either with the old-fashioned way, a pen and paper. You can use an app or a spreadsheet. If you do a search on the internet, you can find a lot of free resources that other people have created for like gear list. You'll see generally some spreadsheets where you can record the weight of all your items and then it'll compute them into categories. You can decide when you're packing and really contemplate whether you need that item. Is that item necessary? Is it a want or a need? And does it serve a purpose? Have you used this item on the trail before? If you've taken it before and you haven't used it, and it's not an item that's like an emergency item, like I usually say first aid kits and stuff are items that we hope to never need, your kit should be changing from hike to hike. It won't be a drastic change, but it should be some change. Some gear will come in, some gear will go out. Sometimes you'll buy a new piece of gear, sometimes you'll just decide not to take something with you, or basically different hikes may require different equipment. If I'm going during the winter, obviously I'm taking a winter jacket. During the summer, I don't bother taking a puffy or a winter jacket because I'm not going to need it unless I'm going very high and I know I need it. So my kit is constantly changing. That's why it's good to have some of these spreadsheets so you can constantly adjust your gear and play with the combinations. Well, if I take this jacket and I don't take this, what am I weighing? And without actually physically loading in the pack or taking stuff out and reweighing it all the time, you have a good indication of what you're walking out the door with. The best thing is to have some item that does more than one job, so I don't have to carry two items. Or just deciding I really don't need it. For instance, I don't carry a flashlight anymore. I also don't carry a lantern for the tent. I have a headlight. My headlight does all those functions for me. I can hike with it at night, I can light up my tent, I can read a book with it, I can cook with it. It does all those functions, so why would I need to carry three things or two things and the additional weight? So my ability to carry items is limited, and my desire to carry some items is also limited. So that decides whether a certain item makes it into my pack or not and continues to stay there. The items that I carry have to get the opportunity to get used, but they have to earn and keep the spot in that kit. If they're not functioning anymore, I need to make the decision to get rid of them and either go without that item or use another item or replace it. For instance, I've done a lot of fire starting, and especially when I was in Boy Scouts, started fire, using 5 or 6 different means. And I got to the point where I would never start a fire using matches or a lighter. However, when I'm camping, none of those methods are really practical or something I really want to do. I don't have time or the desire to go around with flint and steel or with a magnifying glass or any of the other ways that I would start a fire. So the most easiest and simplest way and the most reliable way is to use a lighter. So I'm generally going to carry a lighter. And I cook on a stove rather than making a fire because it's more reliable and it's faster, it's efficient for what I'm doing. So I now have a more efficient way and I reduce the weight. A small mini Bic lighter is much lighter than flint and steel. Some items I may always have even though I don't use them and I hope never to use them, like a first aid kit. A first aid kit is an insurance item, and I have reduced my first aid kit over the years. Years ago when I used to mostly day hike or I would travel with children or other Boy Scouts or younger kids, even Cub Scouts, I carried a lot more stuff. I used to carry a lot more stuff because I needed to carry and have everything for them and I had to be prepared. Now that I'm hiking more solo or with people that are basically responsible for themselves, I don't have to care for them, I can carry a lot less stuff. Generally, a few Band-Aids is the bulk of my first aid kit, along with maybe a couple of different medicines, and usually some KT tape now, or duct tape. And those fit almost all the injuries that happen on the trail. I can usually solve with those items. Seen people carry a lot of different things, but I'm not carrying smelling salts anymore, bear spray, snake bite kits, CPR pocket mask, a stethoscope, a blood pressure cuff. Those are things that I've seen people have, or I've carried even at times. A bottle of 100 pills of ibuprofen on a hike. If it's a 5-day backpacking trip, even if I want to take, let's say, 2 for each day, I only need 10. So I'm going to take 10 only and put them in a little bottle or a little plastic bag, and that's all I'm going to carry. Some of the most commonly carried weight wasters and things that usually beginning hikers or some people carry that add up to weight that I've observed or I see on other hikers are the following. Food. A lot of people carry too much food. I'm guilty of that myself. I always have returned to the trail with extra food, which means I'm carrying too much. But I also notice people carrying prepared foods, which are generally heavy. They're bringing cans out there, which are really heavy to me, or they're not using like lighter weight, dehydrated, ready to eat foods, which that's personal preference if you want to carry it. But cans are generally inefficient. They're very heavy. They usually have a lot of weight in them from water or other things. And you also have the additional waste that you now need to pack out with you. So I find cans to be a very big weight waster. But there are times that it's worthwhile. There's nothing that says you can't do that. I'm just saying generally you don't want to pack a bunch of cans to go on a backpacking trip. Dehydrated food is better because the heaviest part of the food, which is the water, has been removed. You'll notice most backpackers and hikers are using some form of dehydrated food. Jerky, pastas, rice, all these things are lighter in weight and can be reconstituted with water, which we're generally finding on the trails anyway. We have water with us. So why carry extra? We can always add it back in and reconstitute that food. Also, pick food that you're really going to eat or that you normally eat. Going on a hiking trip is not the time to start a new diet or to change your taste in food. You're generally not going to be successful with that. Also, don't bring more food than you're really going to eat. Most people think I'm working out by walking a lot, I need more food. Yes, you need more calories, but you're not going to eat as much as you think you are. Generally, when you first start exercising, you have to force yourself to actually eat your food. Most hikers have to force themselves to eat for the first week or two. Hiker hunger doesn't kick in for several hundred miles. Unless you're doing a through hike, you're not going to reach the stages of hiker hunger. Food in bottles or jars, also, unless you're going to be able to finish that whole bottle or jar, I would tend to not bring food that's in bottles or jars unless you're doing a through hike or you're actually going to be able to finish that bottle. Obviously, glass is a no-no. It's heavy. Plastic is better, and then you can use the jar for something else when you're done. But if you're going to bring, let's say you want peanut butter on a 3-day hike, you're not going to finish a 1-pound bottle of peanut butter, most likely, unless you're eating it all day and snacking on it. So don't bring the bottle. Buy little foil packages or Jif to go, small little 1-serving packs. You can carry 8 or 10 of them if you want, which is more than you need, and you can still have double portions, but you're not carrying 1 pound of peanut butter, and you're probably going to come home with 3/4 of a pound of it. When you buy food, generally it comes in a package. Take it out of that package. Package it in smaller packs. Ziploc bags are your friend. A lot of portions are, too large for you to eat at 1 serving. So split them up, make 2 meals out of them. If I buy like a side, a Knorr side, that's generally 2 meals for me. So I split it up into 2 Ziploc bags and I have 2 meals for the same $1 that I paid for the package. So it's actually more efficient and it's less wasteful, because if I make it and I don't eat it, I got to pack it out. By planning your meals, you can also save weight. So you don't bring extra food. Plan for snacks, maybe throw in an extra one, but plan your meals out carefully so you don't overeat on day 1 or 2 and then run out of food on day 3, or you just don't bring too much food. If you just throw stuff in your pack, you'll generally tend to bring too much. As I already mentioned, a first aid kit. Any commercially purchased first aid kit generally has too much stuff in it. You don't need a lot of the stuff that they put in there. You don't need a whole box of Band-Aids. You just need a couple of them. Maybe some moleskin, some athletic tape or KT tape, or even the waterproof tape that comes in a package is good. The rest of the kit you probably don't need. Maybe a pair of tweezers would be useful. Other than that, some ibuprofen or Tylenol, those are generally the things you carry. Everything else you probably don't need. You don't need an ace bandage, you don't need a splint, all that stuff. If you need it, you're gonna improvise it. I see several people hiking with musical instruments. The most musical instrument I would probably think that someone carries is like a harmonica or a flute or a recorder at best. Anything else I think is very wasteful. You generally don't have as much time as you think you do in camp, unless that's what you're doing, is you're doing low mileage to go to a campsite and you're gonna stay there and you're having a campfire or something with a group of people that's planned out. But if you're doing like a hike, a through hike or a section hike, generally you don't have as much time as you think you do. And at night, you know, not everyone, you may be a great musician, but not everybody might want to hear your music. Let's respect other people. They shouldn't have to ask you not to play or be the bad guy because they feel uncomfortable and they don't say anything, but inside they're really annoyed that they have to listen to you playing your music. And that has happened to me on several hikes. And the person played very well, but maybe I just don't feel like it, or I don't like your music or your style of music. Water, a lot of times you'll see someone carry too much, either in bottles or canteens or stainless steel thermoses. Those are heavy. I like a sports bottle now. The Nalgene bottles are great, but they're heavy. I can carry 2 or 3 bottles for the same weight of the bottle, of the Nalgene bottle, and the water is the same that's inside. So why carry a heavy bottle unless I need to? If you have a specific purpose or you want to, obviously do that. But a way to reduce your weight is to get rid of that bottle or canteen. Don't carry too much water on the trail. Do your research and your homework before you hit the trail. If you've done your homework, you know, or you should have some idea of where the spots that you can get water when you're hiking on a trail. So if you know you're only gonna have to walk 3 or 4 miles before there's another location that you can get reliable water, then you don't need to carry 4 liters of water. 1, possibly 1.5 to 2 is enough. And I'm a person that likes to carry extra water. I'm guilty of that. But I'm also not gonna carry 4 liters if I only need to carry 1 or 2. Now, if there's a dry stretch trail and I need additional water, I may have a bottle that's empty that I'm carrying, and I'll fill it up if and when the time comes. Clothing. Most people pack too many. You can have 2, maybe 3 pairs of socks. I like to keep 2 for the trail and 1 for nighttime. It's nice to be able to change into clean, dry socks when you get to camp and you're gonna get your sleeping bag. It keeps it from getting dirty and it gives your feet a chance to rest. Underwear. You don't need 5 pairs of underwear if you're going on a 5-day hike. You're not gonna change. Most hikers are not changing every day. They're wearing the same clothes day in, day out for 3 or 4 days until they get to a town, 5 days maybe. They get to a town, they do laundry. If I'm just going for a weekend hike, I'm probably wearing the same clothes. I don't want to change every day. I don't want to carry the extra clothes. I don't need multiple shirts, multiple pants. You want to carry a pair of convertible pants or long pants and maybe a pair of shorts. Good, maybe a base layer, which I usually sleep in, or if it gets very cold, I can always throw it on, depending on the weather, of course. Rain jacket, I think you should always try and carry one of those, and maybe a jacket to keep warm. If it's the winter, I might carry 2 different jackets, some sort of fleece, and then a heavier jacket if it gets really cold, temperature drops. Another wasteful thing that most people carry are electronics. We're all dependent on them now. Phones, understood. Cameras. If you're not dedicated upon taking separate pictures, your phone, most smartphones have very good cameras and can do video, and those are usually enough for most people. If you're doing something like these videos or a podcast or something, you might want a better quality camera. That's your choice. Bring extra batteries or bring a power bank to charge it up. You do not need solar power chargers. They generally don't work unless you're out in the desert and you're going to be able to sit long enough to let that thing gain power. Generally, it's not going to charge fast enough for you to be able to charge your whole battery. In most trails, depending on where you are, you're inside the woods. You're not going to get a chance to see the sunlight. You might be in a tunnel of green. You're better off taking a battery power bank. Extra lights or a backup light. You don't need a lantern. You don't need a flashlight and a headlamp. Pick one, stick with it. If you like a flashlight to carry, then use that. I like a headlamp or something I can put on my pack. Generally, I like to wear a headlamp because I like my hands free. I think it does double duty, and I can use it to hike with at night. I can use it to light up my tent. If you think you're gonna stay up in your tent at night and journal and generally write out stuff or even read a book, you're probably not going to do that. Most hikers are usually pretty tired, and come 8, 9 o'clock or whatever after a long day of hiking, they generally go to bed. Some people are dedicated, but be realistic about what you're gonna do. If you've never gone hiking before, the likelihood is you're probably not gonna be using those items. So that means leave the iPad at home, the tablet, and the book. You're not gonna probably read them. Most through hikers will tell you they took a book with them and they never read it. They thought they would finish it, and they never read it. They carried it. You see them in hiker boxes a lot. At a lot of hostels, they'll give them away. They're there as a library because nobody wants to carry it anymore. Try not to carry duplicate chargers and cords. If you have the same type of cord for 2 or 3 items, only carry one of them. You can use the same cord, reduce your weight, and carry and charge one thing at a time, or use your power bank. You can also pick a charger that has more than one slot. So maybe 2 USB ports, so you can charge 2 things at once with a very small weight gain. It's more efficient. Your cookware or your cook set. You don't need extra mugs, cups, plates, bowls, knives, forks. You're generally not going to use all those things. What you should have is 1 cup or 1 mug to eat out of. If you need to, you can have a separate one just for drinks. But generally, I'm going to eat out of whatever I cook in, or a Ziploc bag if I rehydrate stuff in there. And I have another cup if I want coffee or water. Or generally, I'm drinking water out of my bottles anyway. So those are things that you can reduce your weight. I don't carry a knife usually in terms of cookware. I have a knife anyway to cut stuff. I have a small pocket knife. So I don't need a knife to cut my food up. I generally don't take a fork and a spoon. I usually just bring a spoon. Or some people will take a combination, a spork. Extra fuel. Try not to carry extra fuel or the large canisters of fuel. Most cookware sets are made to have a small canister nest inside. So you don't need to use a large fuel canister. Speaking about a knife, you have a pocket knife, correct? I don't see too many people using their multi-tool. I see them carrying them, a Leatherman or stuff like that, but they're not using it. It's just extra weight. If something breaks, you're generally going to be fixing it with duct tape, tenacious tape, or even a sew kit. If I need to, I can use that to pop a blister or get a splinter out if I don't have my pair of tweezers with me or it's not working, and also to fix any gear. If there's a tear or rip, I can stitch it up and get it to town, and then I can try and work on getting a better or more permanent repair. Using wipes, if you're going to the bathroom, carry TP, toilet paper, and a trowel. I know a lot of people don't carry a trowel. They'll say, I'll use a stick, I'll use a tent stake. Those things are not geared for that purpose. They don't work as well. A trowel works best. Please don't leave your poop all over the trail. Nobody wants to see that. It's disgusting and it spreads disease. Bury your stuff, use a trowel, do it properly. They have lightweight trowels that weigh less than an ounce. There's really no excuse not to bring one of those. If you're going to carry wipes, don't carry the whole package. Carry just what you think you need. Plan on using maybe 1 or 2 a day, and just carry those in a Ziploc bag. And you can't bury them with your poop anyway. You shouldn't be burying them. I don't care if they say they're biodegradable. They're not. They should not be going in the ground. Review your leave no trace principles. I am just looking for what works for me and is right for me and helps me hike and makes me feel comfortable while I'm doing it. So lighting up is a part of that. While I may not be an ultralight hiker, that doesn't mean that we can't use and adopt some of their methods. Some of those methods I've already mentioned, but other ones I'm going to go through now. So while I don't cut my toothbrush in half to save weight, I do take apart my guidebooks and only take the pages that I need. Some guidebooks have the trail in both directions or have extra maps, extra descriptions. I may not need that. I just take what I think I need. Why carry it all? Put it in a Ziploc bag, now it's waterproof. I do weigh my items and I do track my weight. I don't bring a camp chair. Nature provides plenty of places to sit down. I like using trail runners over boots. They're generally much lighter. They dry faster and they're not usually as hot. I try to multi-purpose items whenever possible. My trekking poles are now the poles for my tent, so I don't have to carry separate poles. And they also help me hike. And occasionally I use them to carry my camera as a selfie stick. A bandana is a very useful item. I can use it to wipe something up. I can use it as a pot holder. I can use it as a bandage. I can use it to strain my water or pre-strain it before it goes into my filter to keep all the floating stuff out so my filter doesn't get clogged. So weigh each item, track the changes as you change your gear. The changing of your gear signifies your growth and evolution of a hiker. As you gain knowledge and experience, you know now what you didn't know before and what you need to take or not take, and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So view this change as growth, and it's a good thing. So when I'm looking at items now, I routinely look, how big is it? What is its size? What is its dimension? How much does it weigh? How much does it cost? How functional is it? Is it worth me spending my money to replace an item I have with this item? And if it is, and it's lighter, or just more functional. Sometimes it might be the same weight or even heavier. But if it's worth it to spend the money on, then go ahead and do it. But be intentional and purposeful with your purchases. Remember, lighter stuff costs more. So hiking is a hobby where you pay more to get less. Well, I hope these have all helped you out. If you have a suggestion, what type of items have you switched over from? What things are you purchasing, or how are you reducing your weight? If you have any more tips or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe if you feel inclined to do so. Thank you so much once again for taking time out of your busy day. Until we meet again.